Hello, viewers, and a very warm welcome to you all to Passion Vista podcast. Once again, we are here with Dr. Robin Hill, an amazing trailblazer coming with a new story, a new view. So let's dive into a new conversation with Dr. Robin Hill. A very warm welcome to you to another enlightening episode. How are you doing today?
I am doing fine. Thank you, Dr. Neetu, and thank you for having me on your podcast show.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and taking out your time from your busy schedule. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
So, Dr. Robin, as you've been doing an amazing journey of your career, we would like to now actually dive into your inspired, inspirational story of how you've written your book, The Authority Guide to Emotional Resilience in Business.
No, that's great. And this is coming at quite a timely point because the second edition is due for publication at the beginning of 2025.
Well, that's really wonderful. So we would really love to hear more about your book of how and what all are the contents and how actually this inspired you to write a book and what crucial information it carries for our viewers.
Okay, well, my speciality is emotional intelligence. And a lot of people will equate resilience, emotional resilience, with emotional intelligence. And it's not really a fundamental component of emotional intelligence. Resilience is an output of people using their emotional intelligence well. So, what inspired me to write the book was the fact that there are a lot of people talking about resilience, and they'll talk about resilience all the time. But do they really understand the concept of what resilience is and how it works? And I think a lot of people will define um, people's behavior or people's lifestyle as being resilient when they're not being resilient. They're just living their normal lifestyle. So I think there's a lot of poison in resilience because if I talk about somebody else as being resilient, particularly if it's somebody from a completely different culture or a completely different community, then really what I'm doing is I'm making myself feel better, which doesn't really help the people with regards to their community. They have lived and grown up in their environment. They have a degree of emotional resilience which is different from my environment, my upbringing, and my culture. So, what inspired me to write the book was really to get some clarity around what resilience is. And I see resilience as being 3 points. It's a focus on what is appropriate based on your environment. It's also having an understanding that there's some meaning in life and working with that and working innovatively and creatively to adapt to the environment as it changes. Put all of those together and you can be resilient.
That's really nice. And what uh, do you think that is your emotional intelligence crucial for success in business today?
Well, yes, I think emotional intelligence underpins everything that we do in business. Because if we didn't have emotional intelligence, we would just be a robot, a machine going about a job. And what makes us different from the robots is that we have emotions.
Correct.
Now, if we can use our emotions and get them to work well for us, and we can make good quality decisions, and we can build up good quality relationships, then we can succeed in the jobs that we do. And through that, we can become more resilient.
Correct, correct. So, how do you think that leaders can build emotional resilience in their teams?
Well, firstly, I think the leader needs to look at themselves and they need to have a degree of self awareness. What is it that they're doing that impacts upon the team and the team's behavior? Because if the leader is constantly angry because things are not going right, the team are not going to perform at their best. The team needs to work with the leader in an appropriate way. The leader needs to work with the team in an appropriate way. And the way to do that is to tap into the emotional climate of the team. Now, I'm fully aware that there are going to be times when things do not go well, but how does the leader manage that? How does people manage does a leader manage the emotions of the team? But more importantly, how does the leader manage the team, lead the team when things are going really well? And excuse me. And a lot of leaders will actually overlook that part because that's the part when the team are performing at their best and they need more encouragement, they need more support, and they need their emotions to be managed in an appropriate way by the leader. A simple we've got two words in English that I don't think are available in all languages, but the words please and thank you are very, very powerful. And a lot of leaders forget that.
Correct, correct. I completely agree with you on that. And what do you think that a team actually needs, to work hard or to perform better? Because it simply happens many a times that they've been provided with a lot of good things, but still the outcomes are not there. So how do they or can they cope up with this thing?
Well, I think it goes back to the leader and how the leader is managing and working with the team. The leader is responsible for leading and managing the people. The leader isn't responsible for making the widgets, for doing the actions. The leader is responsible for the people, and it's down to the performance of the people which will drive the success of the leader. So a lot of leaders completely overlook that bit. So if I'm leading a team of 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 people, I need to get to know each individual and what works well for them. What is it that motivates each individual? And a very, very simple question that a lot of leaders overlook is, what do you need from me? And how can I help you to do your job better? So many leaders fall into the trap of telling people what to do that they think that that's good leadership. I don't. I think that's just being bossy.
That's so true. So, what is a quick tip would you like to give to our viewers to improve emotional intelligence at work?
Well, I think the quickest tip is just to understand that emotions are very, very fluid. The emotions that I had when I started talking to you, Dr. Neetu, are completely different to the emotions that I'm having at the moment. I'm feeling quite pleasant. There's a degree of anxiety there, a little bit of nervousness because I'm talking to thousands of people through your podcast, through your show. So I need that physiologically and psychologically to help me perform. So I think the important thing is not to disregard any emotions which are unpleasant, but ask yourself, why am I feeling the emotions that I'm feeling at the moment? And how can I use this emotional state to behave in a constructive way?
True, very true. I completely agree with that part. I think we need to be very much aware of what and how we can do better, and we can, work with our emotions so that we're performing the best out of us.
Yes, that's right. That's the very essence that makes us human. And it's the very essence that distinguishes us from the robot.
Correct. So, how did your upbringing as the son of a Christian minister shape your journey?
Well, this is an interesting question because I am not traditionally religious now.
Mhm.
None of us can choose our father and our mother, and I happened to be born to a Christian minister.
Mhm.
So I was brought up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord as defined by Christians. I think irrespective of what religion you're brought up in, it provides us with a good set of core values and certain beliefs around what we should do to work with and engage with people. And if we apply these values, then what it means is that we can live a good, decent, honest life, and we can follow whatever beliefs and religious path we like. So whether you're Muslim, Hindu, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Christian, or any of the other smaller religions, it doesn't matter. And I think what I'm very grateful for in terms of my upbringing as the son of a Christian minister is that it has helped to make me the man that I am, so I can make the choices that I need based around a very good set of core values.
Oh, that's amazing. I think the globe, actually, the values shape you, and they are the ones who actually make you a better person. And it's certainly, if you are a better person, you are an asset to the world, I would say, because you actually the one key person who is always working in changing uh, the things around you, and how we I think we always have that thing into our mind. What good can we do for the people around us, for the world, for the country? And this is very, very essential while we are shaping a career and the core values.
Yeah, and I think it's vitally important to say this to listeners. Um, I was brought up in understanding the Christian religion. That then doesn't give me an understanding of the Hindu religion. It doesn't give me an understanding of the Muslim religion. Doesn't give me understanding of any other religion. I know what the Christian religion is all about. That's my upbringing. So I think part of my working with this is to actually go out into the world and encourage people to find out about other people's beliefs, to ask questions, to seek knowledge. What is it that other people believe? Why do they believe that? You don't necessarily have to agree with those beliefs. You just have to understand, because people get some real important drive, satisfaction, motivation, whatever you call it, from their beliefs. They are vitally important to them. So we should support them in their beliefs and not fight against those beliefs. And let me take you back 2 or 3 centuries. My religion is the right one, yours is the wrong one. So I'm going to convert you to my religion. No, that's not what we should be doing in the 21st century. We should be excuse me, we should be listening, we should be understanding, we should be empathizing. That's emotional intelligence.
Absolutely agree with you on this point. I think if we understand this basic rule, we are the winners and we are the change makers, I guess.
Yes, that's right, because you and I are human beings. There are certain differences between the two of us. Look, they're basic differences, and people do not often talk about this. I'm a man. You, I'm a man. You're a woman. I got grey hair because I'm in my 60s. I would imagine you're probably in your late 30s, early 40s, I'm guessing. Um, I'm English. I'm a Christian.
Right.
You're Indian. I believe you're Hindu. So there are certain things that we can't change. Now, whether I like it or not, this is who I am. I can think about my goals. I can think about what I'd like to achieve in my life, but I am never, ever going to be one of Diana Ross's Supremes. That's a certain type of character, and I'm not that. I am me. So, what is it that I can do to go out and make a difference to people and change the world and have some fun? I can't sing, but if I could, I still wouldn't be a member of Diana Ross's Supremes.
Oh, that's really wonderful. And I completely, agree with you on that part. That's a nice thing. So, what inspired your shift from biology and pharmaceutical sales to emotional intelligence?
Well, when I completed my degree, I had a piece of paper which said that I studied biology, and what I wanted to do was to go out and get some skills that utilized my degree. So I didn't want to go into biological research, which is what a lot of my friends did. I wanted to go and do something completely different. And to go into pharmaceutical sales was a very nice route because it gave me some business experience based around my knowledge and applications of biology. Now, I did that for about 20 years. And
Oh.
in that time, I interacted with a lot of doctors, senior doctors, world leading doctors. And I found that some of them were very, very successful, but had an extremely poor attitude to people and couldn't work with people. They were almost academics. They were, and they, well, yes, I think I can say they were, because most of them will be retired or they're no longer with us. They they were brilliant doctors, but their bedside manner, their understanding of working with people and caring for people was sorely limited.
I
And some doctors, yeah, some doctors would get very, very, very stressed to the point where it was their job that I thought was driving their stress. But then another doctor would come into exactly the same role, do exactly the same thing, have exactly the same patients, and they weren't stressed. Now, what was that down to? I didn't know at the time, and it wasn't until I learnt about emotional intelligence that I realized it was the way in which they were using their intelligence to work with their emotions, and that was making the difference.
Oh, right, right. I completely agree. So much of studies, I think the doctors, they become more of robotics that they're not interested in what a patient is actually going through. Because even I have gone through a lot of diseases, some way or the other way around, and the doctors were like, "Oh my God, treat me like a human, exactly as a patient." So I think yes, this is very inspiring, and if all doctors and even leaders accept this emotional intelligence at their workplace, this is surely going to make a beautiful difference in everyone's life.
It is. We have here in the United Kingdom a National Health Service, which is free at the point of delivery, and it is a brilliant service. Now, they're always complaining about the fact that they're incredibly busy. They're always complaining about the fact that they haven't got enough resources and they haven't got enough money. I don't necessarily agree with the last couple of points. I think they've got more than enough money and enough resources. It's just that they don't use it properly. They waste so much money because of the points that you've just raised, Dr. Nitu. They don't treat people like human beings. And I'll give you an example. I need to go along to my audiology clinic every 3 years to get my hearing checked. I am quite deaf, and I went along to the clinic
Mhm.
in September, and I said to them, "Oh, I haven't had an appointment." So the audiologist said, "Oh, I'll put you in the system." Okay, right, that's fine. You'll get a letter giving you an appointment date in the next few weeks. Okay, so I thought, right, I'll wait. Well, I waited and waited and waited, and this week I phoned them up and I said, "I haven't had an appointment through." "Oh, you're on a waiting list."
Oh my
Okay,
God.
right. Yeah, okay, so fine, I'm on a waiting list. How long is the waiting list? "Oh, it's about 20 weeks." So I said, All right. Okay. So when am I likely to hear from you then? Oh, you're about 9 weeks into the system. So you'll hear from us probably in March. And I thought, this is a complete waste of money and a waste of time because they'll send me a letter in March to say, oh, we've allocated you a date and a time. And I'll look at it and think, I can't make that. So I'll have to phone up and rearrange it. Now, why don't they give me a date and a time at the time that I book the appointment? Okay, 20 weeks, 26 weeks in the future, it doesn't matter. I can put it in my diary. And if it needs changing, we can change it more efficiently nearer the date. And if it doesn't need changing, it's going to save a lot more time for them at their end. So this is just one tiny, tiny little example of inefficiencies within the National Health Service here in the United Kingdom because they are not treating patients like people. I'm just a number. I'm on a waiting list. Fine, that's our system. That's the way we do it. That's not emotionally intelligent, but can't seem to get that message through.
I'm really surprised and shocked. And I mean, this thing, I mean, I completely agree with you that one has to share a date at least so that one can book into the diary and we can just jot it down. But 20 weeks is, it's quite a long time for an appointment.
Oh, it is. So, and the worrying thing is if you have an extremely serious disease or illness, appointments get cancelled, and people the day before they're going in for surgery, very severe surgery, very what's the word? Serious surgery. The hospital will phone up and say, "Oh, we can't fit you in. We're cancelling the appointment." And instead of actually saying, "Oh, we can't fit you in, we're cancelling your appointment. We'll give you another appointment in the future," they just cancel the appointment outright. Now, some of these waiting lists are a lot longer than 20, 26 weeks. I've heard 2 years in some cases. And again, a lot of it, as I say, it's not down to lack of staff, it's not down to lack of money, it's down to pure inefficiencies. And it goes back to the time when I started my career last century, working with these doctors who are very robotic and believe that their way of doing things is the right way, the non emotionally intelligent way, unfortunately. But again, I'll go back to what I said. The National Health Service is a brilliant system that I'm very grateful for in the United Kingdom. And when it works well, it works well.
So do you think that now things have changed or they're still better? Or, I mean, are they going to be better?
No, I think they are striving to make things better, but I think the fundamental principles go back to attitude and the attitudes of the the medical schools and the way in which they train people very, very, very early on. So they're actually putting into people attitudes and prejudices that have worked over the many years. They probably worked very, very well 60, 70 years ago, but they're not the attitudes for the 2020s. However, again, um, there are lots and lots and lots of initiatives, very good quality initiatives. Excuse me. Very good quality initiatives that are being put in place to improve the system. And I'm actually very hopeful that they will make a difference.
Same I am. So, what did your leadership roles in the pharmaceutical sector teach you about emotional intelligence?
Well, when I took up a leadership role, I moved up to the northwest of England, and I thought to myself at the time it was down to, oh, I know how to sell in the pharmaceutical industry. But of course, that's not leadership. I'm leading people. I'm
Mm,
motivating people. I'm encouraging people to go out and do the selling, do the commercial side themselves. I'm not doing it. I'm encouraging and supporting them to do it. And I think I made the mistake. Well, I don't think, I know I made the mistake that a lot of other leaders make when they get promoted into a leadership position. One goes into that position because one's technical competence and capability, but that's not why you're being promoted into a leadership position. And it took me a number of years, I'm afraid to say, to work out that the way in which I was approaching leadership was not right and not necessarily the way I could lead people. Now, the thing is, when you are leading people, it doesn't matter whether it's me, whether it's you, Dr. Neetu, there are going to be times when it doesn't work. And that's down to the point that we have misinterpreted what the other person needs from the relationship, or we unintentionally behave in a certain way that causes them problems and causes them conflict. And I think as a leader, we just got to accept that that happens. And when it does happen, we just learn from it and we adapt around it. And if necessary, we apologize.
yes, I understand that. So, how did Daniel Goleman's work on emotional intelligence impact you?
Well, I was working as a leader within the pharmaceutical industry, and I read a review of his book in one of the Saturday papers in the mid 90s. And that was very much the wake up call that I'd been looking for, because that actually, through the review, gave me the answers that I needed as to how and why people were behaving the way in which they were behaving through their emotions and their emotional intelligence. And I got the book and I read the book and I avidly read the book because it is absolutely fascinating. Would I recommend the book? Yes, it is not an easy read. And I've read 2 of 3 of his books, having really enjoyed the first book. And I've enjoyed all of his books, but they are not an easy read. His sentences are very, very clunky. And also, he does go into a lot of detail around neuroscience, which for me is absolutely fascinating. But for the layperson that doesn't quite understand the biology, it can get incredibly boring. But this is where I have made a difference, because I can take the basis of his work and convert it into a practical understanding and a practical way of applying it within the business environment. And from that, I have had my success.
All right. So, Dr. Hills, you have a very great venture of EI for Change. So, could you just brief us about EI for Change?
Sure. EI for Change came about because I went through a number of redundancies. Um, my job was no longer viable. There were some changes in the marketplace. There were changes in company strategy, and a few people and myself got made redundant. And that happened 2, 3, 4 times. And it got to a point where I thought, do you know, I can make myself redundant here. And so I decided I would set myself up in business. So I set up EI for Change, 15, 16 years ago. It was at the time of the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. Probably not the best time to set up a business, but I had really no option. It was either that or going back into the corporate world as a paid employee. And, I didn't really want to do that. So I set EI for Change up. And quite honestly, apart from the fact that it is incredibly, incredibly hard to set oneself up in business, EI for Change has progressed and it has grown and it is now a global brand that people recognize as supporting people in the development of the development of emotional intelligence to help people change at the personal level, the team level, and at the leadership level. And we're using things like positive psychology and the latest research from neuroscience to help us to deliver this. But again, I go back to what I said to you earlier, Dr. Neetu. It's giving the practical, realistic application of these in the work environment.
That's really wonderful. And how would you advocate for integrating work and life instead of seeking balance?
Yes, I'm afraid that a lot of people in work will talk about work-life balance, and I have a real problem with this phrase because I think it lowers people's resilience, and it's not an emotionally intelligent phrase. Work is not at one end of a fulcrum with life at the other. When we're at work, we're living our lives. When we're outside of work, yeah, we have a different life, but we have to integrate the two together. You and I are at the stage of our life where work can take up a lot of our time. A couple of weeks ago, I was in the United States, and I was in the United States for work. Now, I didn't go along there thinking, "Oh, I'm working. I can't enjoy myself." Yeah, I am working, but there are gonna be times when I can take time out and enjoy myself, but, I don't look at it that way. I look at work as being part of the journey that I'm on, and I integrate it into life. Now, next week in the United Kingdom, everybody is off on holiday because we have our Christmas holidays, um, and in those sort of situations, it's more family time. But there are going to be times when, because I run a global business, if anything comes in and it's urgent, I'll deal with it. So again, it's getting the integration right. It's getting the balance right, but it's not calling it work-life balance. It really is work-life integration, and that's the better phrase, because a lot of people who look at work-life balance will look at work and see it as something negative, and they'll look at life and see that as or life outside of work as something positive, and no, it's not binary. Um, there are going to be times when I go to the audiology clinic, that'll be during work time. So I actually have to manage that. And there are going to be times when I'll take time out of work in order to do some other things that I want to do. And then there are going to be times when I have to work of an evening and a weekend. And, I just have to accept that. So that's what I mean by work-life integration. It's integrating work into life.
That's true. That's so. I have a curiosity in my mind that I would like to understand that you started as you started the pandemic came. So how did the early adoption of online learning prepare AI for change for the pandemic?
Well, again, that is a really interesting question, Dr. Nitu. Prior to the pandemic, we didn't even know there was going to be a pandemic. This was 10 years ago. I saw the opportunity to develop some online emotional intelligence courses that people can take anywhere in the world at any time, as long as they got a good internet connection. So I started to build up some video-based courses, which integrated some PDFs and some quizzes, and I put them out into the marketplace, and they started to. There was a degree of interest there. Now, when I was talking to people at the time around developing online courses, they couldn't understand it. They couldn't comprehend it. Training is all about getting in a room with your colleagues and talking to people. and being taught from the front like you were at school. And okay, the trainer has a bit of business knowledge and integrates that into the training. That's what training was. Nothing happens online. So people just couldn't understand it. They couldn't comprehend it. And I found that when I was talking about it, people just went blank and changed the subject. Now, it didn't deter me because I could see a potential there, and I carried on and carried on and carried on and got to the point just before the pandemic where the type of work that I was doing, where I was going along interacting with people face to face, and the online learning, they were about the same level in balance. So, of course, when the pandemic came, all the face to face stuff stopped. And I was nicely placed with online learning. And of course, everybody in lockdown was looking for something positive to do. So online learning just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Now, there by the grace of God go I. You know, I was very, very fortunate that at that time the universe was spinning in the right direction for me. However, the challenge was to ensure that those courses maintained at the level that they did and grow at that level post-pandemic. And so I worked incredibly hard during the pandemic, and I'm still doing it today, to ensure that the courses are of the utmost quality. And I'm adding to my catalogue all the time, and I'm answering student questions, and I'm providing value to any of the learners and communicating with them in the most appropriate way. And it's great fun.
That's really amazing. I think it's always an inspiration while you learn it from your own very life. That there's always a beautiful morning that way sound. It's just you have to be patient enough and you have to keep working hard. And this is what the inspiration of every successful man is. I think the story that you have, the success that you have, is because you have struggled in that and you've actually lived it.
Yes, I think you're right. And I've got to be perfectly honest here. And, your viewers and listeners might not like to hear this, but um, when I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I couldn't have done this. So I needed life experience to get me to that point. So all I would encourage everybody to do is to live your life, get as much experience as possible, enjoy it, and look for the opportunities that are open to you. Look, let me put this into context. When I started my career at the beginning of the 1980s, email didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. A computer was a machine that sat in the corner of the room, and it was huge. And you had to use punch cards to uh, set up a formula to get the computer to do something. Now look at what we've got. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen over the next 40 years? I don't know. You don't know. All I would encourage anybody and everybody to do is to look for opportunities, do what gives you pleasure, enjoy it, do with what sits with your core values, and make sure that you adapt. Excuse me. And make sure that you adapt around the environment as it unfolds before you. So I was the first person that bought one of those skanky little computers that had 32K of memory back in the 80s, just because I thought, I need to learn this. This is going to be something useful. And it was, but it got set me on the path for where I am now. Now, my computer at the moment, has got about 1 terabyte of memory. This was just unheard of back in the 80s. Email, like I say, hadn't been invented. The mobile phone hadn't been invented. So there we were, relying on a telephone stuck on the wall and relying on the postal system to communicate. Look at what's happened over the last 40 years. So I think the important thing is keep your skill set up to date, adapt around it, look for opportunities to build your skills. And through that, you can become more resilient.
Beautiful message. Very nice. Because that's what the youths and so-called Gen Z that we call should learn, that change is the key. You should always be working hard towards your goal, and you should be adaptable to the new changes that are coming on the way rather than resisting them and accepting them happily and going along with them. And this, I think, uh, it's a great story of yours when it's teaching us that, a man who actually started when computers were just built and they were just out, and accepting them, learning them. And then you've seen, I mean, computers, a journey, complete journey from computers to laptops to email to internet. And now it's like, it's too easy. I mean, life is just like, oh, I'm so glad today we connected overseas so easily. And we
Well, this is
literally had
it.
seen do this collaboration that we're doing on a podcast. This is really an amazing innovation, I guess.
Well, it is, and I take you back to the 1980s. If anybody said to me at the time, "Oh, by the time you'll be thinking about retirement," and I'm not, but by the time you're thinking of retirement, you'll be doing digital videoing, you'll be doing sound engineering, you'll be creating online courses. I'd have just looked at them and said, "Don't be silly. I work for the pharmaceutical industry." And I think the important thing here is you you do excuse you don't know what you're going to be doing in 40 years' time. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 40 years' time. I just hope I'm still around. I'm probably not going to be because I will have lived out my life expectancy. But what is it that you can be doing in that time? I'm hoping in that time you'll be enjoying your family and the rewards of your career, Dr. Neetu. But what are the younger people going to be doing? Just keep your mind very focused on what it is that you want to do and to do it according to your core values. And I think the important thing to say is that in the intervening period, how can you put the decent, legal, ethical, honest pound, rupee, dollar, whatever it is, into your bank account and make sure that you've got sufficient to put food on your table, a roof over your head, and you can live your life according to the way in which you want to live it.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. So, Dr. Hills, what actually inspired you to create EI Matters, and how does it contribute to your work?
Well, EI Matters is the digital magazine around emotional intelligence, and it is providing us or me with a platform to get the message of emotional intelligence out there to a wider audience. Now, over the last year or so, it's really been me providing articles, podcast interviews, quizzes, downloadable resources. But over the next few months, I'm actually planning to extend that to anybody and everybody who wants to contribute positively to AI matters to publish blog articles based around emotional intelligence. So it's inspiring me to do something different in the world of emotional intelligence to try and get the message out there.
Oh, wow, that's really beautiful. I think that's going to give a lot of insights to us and a lot of matters, and this will be quite an eye opening for all the viewers and readers, in fact, those who've been following and reading you.
Well, this is it. Thank you, and this is our intention, and thank you for the opportunity for me to utilize your platform to spread my messages.
Absolutely. this is a pleasure, I would say. It's actually a great moment for me because I've been podcasting with a man, who's I would not say you're old, but then I would say you're as young and more young than the Gen Zs because you're the one change maker who's seeing n number of changes in the series and still ready to accept changes and not, giving it a goodbye, but still you have that, I would say patience. You have a lot of still that quality that I am going to move on and on and on. And this is what the spirit is all about. And this is really very inspiring story that we've had with you.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to share it. When I sit down and unpick it the way that you have, I think to myself, is that me? Yes, it is.
So, what's your ultimate vision for emotional intelligence and personal and professional growth?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I'm saying, what's your ultimate vision for emotional intelligence in personal and professional growth?
My ultimate vision is to ensure that um, a lot more people understand the importance of emotions and start thinking about them as data, information that they can use and interpret to understand how and why they're acting the way that they are. So ultimately, my vision would be that everybody has heard about emotional intelligence, and ideally, everybody is practicing emotional intelligence. I think, unfortunately, at the moment, the world is not as emotionally intelligent as it could be for a whole host of reasons that I don't think it's appropriate to go into now. But I think we can do better as a human race. We can be a lot more compassionate, a lot more caring, and a lot kinder towards each other. And I think that if we strive for that as individuals, we can then make a difference.
So, Dr. Hills, it was an amazing podcast with you. I think this was a quite an eye opener for us, and I'm sure our viewers will also be having a lot of inspiration from this. And they'll be learning how a man who is absolutely going on and on and on, besides his lot of ups and downs, but still he's passionate about his work. So I'm really grateful that we had you today at our podcast. So before we end the session, we would certainly like to know your success mantra that has been motivating you throughout the journey.
I don't know how to answer that question. What has been motivating me? I don't know. I suppose it's a case of keeping going. I've got a very supportive family who are there behind the scenes. They don't necessarily know what I do, but they are there for me. So when things are not going as well as they could be, they don't need to know what it is that has gone wrong. They just need to take me out of myself and um, just build me back up again. Now, I'm very, very good at doing that myself. I've got very, very strong intrinsic motivation around that. But it's nice to have a family there to be that supportive. So I think the important thing for anybody to do is to look at their immediate relationships because when I am not around, which, realistically is going to be in 40 years' time, my legacy is the thing that continues. And it's my legacy through my family that will continue. And that is important to me.
Yes, yes. I'm pretty sure that you worked so hard and you built a beautiful product, beautiful, I would say you've written an amazing book. And that is actually helping a lot of corporates and a lot of people to grow and actually change their mentality. And I always feel one thing that uh, whatever we do, even if it changes one single life with our words or with our deeds, I think it's a win-win situation because that one person will pass on to another three, then they three would be passing on to another few people, and that's how the legacy will go on. and the beautiful legacy you have created and you have been doing a simply incredible work. I think that's really very amazing and beautiful. And we want to see more of you doing great success. And we really wish you all the very best for the great work you've been doing. And uh, you're truly an inspiration to the generation Z, Gen Z that we call, and even to us, because this is what the thing is, always keep doing, working hard, keep giving your best, and do something for the people around you. Try to be a change maker, and you're doing that very successfully. We're very proud of you for the achievements and for the deeds that you've been doing.
Thank you. And I would add to that, I think the important thing is to have some fun while you're doing it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. That was absolutely and we also had you at our show, Gusto with GD. And I would say that it was an amazing show. We had a great time with you, and especially your better half. She's been a beautiful lady, and I would say she's the lady behind the successful man.
I would agree with you. We had a wonderful time, and what really disappointed us is we couldn't spend more time with you because of other commitments that we got in place. That was life getting in the way of work.
But surely we'll be catching up more of with each other in near future, and we'll be, you know, catching up more, working more together, and probably we also working that how can we build a strong community of passion with our team so that we can do better and better. And we're working on this community. Let's see, hope for the best. If God is kind, things are working on. We'll be surely working again together with you, because the people like you who've been inspiring, who've been giving a lot of insights, you are the core strength of our organization and the community, I feel.
I will look forward to that future. So thank you, Dr. Neetu. It's been an inspiration for me too.
Thank you so much. Absolutely a pleasure having you with us on our podcast. And this was Dr. Robin Hills with us. I hope you all had a great session, team. So stay tuned with us at Passion with the podcast.